Survivors can be found in small pockets under the rubble of collapsed buildings in Turkey and Syria. At least 19,800 people have been confirmed dead after Monday's devastating earthquakes. A number of Irish aid agencies have launched a joint appeal for funds to help in the response to the disaster. CEO of Christian Aid Ireland, Rosamond Bennett, says the Irish Emergency Alliance is ready to respond.
Well, we're in a fortunate position that a lot of our partners are already on the ground working in Syria or Turkey. And what we need is, this caused huge amounts of damage. So buildings have been destroyed. It's happening in northwest Syria where, there is just very little infrastructure to begin with. And only 5% of reported sites are being covered by search and rescue operations.
Truck drivers are calling for a more balanced approach to tolls on Irish roads. It comes after the Irish Road Haulage Association met with Transport Infrastructure Ireland on the issue today. It will look for legal advice in relation to its concerns. IHRH President Eugene Drennan told the Hard Shoulder here on News Talk how much haulage companies pay on tolls every year.
A medium-sized company in Ireland, which is about 20 trucks, pays between 100 and 130,000 now a year, but with the increases they'll be paying 150 to 170,000 a year.
There is a call to nationalise energy companies after a number of firms announced massive profits. BP this week announced $28 billion in profit, while Shell revealed profits of around $40 billion last week. People Before Profit TD Paul Murphy says, as well as contributing to the cost of living crisis, fossil fuel companies are contributing to the climate crisis.
They're the ones responsible for driving carbon emissions more than anybody else. And they're doing all of this for profit. It's in their interest for oil and gas to continue to be burned because that's all profit for them.
And sports halls and office buildings will be used to house refugees, according to the Integration Minister. Roderick O'Gorman says there's no choice but for the government to examine all options amid an extreme shortfall. That's your news. More in an hour.
News Talk weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. Best birthday present ever. Give a Ryanair gift card.
Mainly dry and cloudy tomorrow, highest temperatures of 10 to 12 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Newsround on Off the Ball.
With Gillette. Start your day in flow with the new Gillette Labs razor with exfoliating bar.
This is News Talk.
All right, you're welcome along. It is Thursdays Off the Ball. Nathan with you until 10 o'clock this evening. We've got John Giles coming up on the football show, not till 9 o'clock. I want to give John a little bit more time and space because, well, Leeds United have sacked their manager, and the Leeds United fans want to know whether John will give it a go at long last. Throw him in for the John Giles Derby on Sunday, live and Off the Ball.
He was supposed to get the job in, I think it was 1972, 1974 maybe?
1974, but they brought in some other guy.
Other clown.
It seems to go, it went fine.
He lasted about as long as Jesse Marsh.
Yeah, that Don Revie succession plan went really well, didn't it? Don wasn't one to take the mic at the end and say, your job now is to get behind the next guy. Don just moved on and went live on national TV.
I know we talk about that a lot, but it really does actually never get old as an incredible sporting story.
Anything involving Clough, that Leeds United squad, and sort of mid-70s football.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, the live television debate between the outgoing manager and the former manager, absolutely insanity.
We're coming up on the 50th anniversary of all this soon.
By the way, if anybody hasn't seen that, and I'm sure most people have, do watch it on YouTube. The whole thing is there, and there isn't even a downtime moment in it. The whole thing is utterly bizarre and surreal and actually happened on live television.
You could, Richie McCormack is grunting away and nodding away in the background because this is peak Richie nostalgia.
My wheelhouse
as well.
Oh, yeah.
You could, in sort of TikTok zoom in style, just have it on Don Revie's face for the entire interview, as the laser and just the disdain he shows for Clough the entire way through it.
I'm surprised there isn't a series of just reaction videos or reaction gifs of Revie from that piece with Clough on Yorkshire TV. It's again, Mick says it doesn't bear over, it can't be overstated how good a piece of television it is. For the bookings to sheer land in their lap the way they did, for Clough to be in the form that he was, if you believe Jonathan Wilson's book, he might have been at the bar before he arrived in. It's just an amazing piece of TV. We talk about access and stuff like that a lot as well, but to have that level of access whereby the former manager is placed beside the current manager. There was another. It was on the big match. I think there was two managers side by side having an interview. Terry Venables was one of them. I think Malcolm Allison might have been the other. Where they just were opposing managers at the end of a match and speaking together. You just can't fathom the idea of something like that happening unless it's in a really controlled environment these days, and that's a huge loss.
No, it wouldn't be quite as electric, I don't think, but it would be like Stephen Kenny leaving the Ireland job, and we were like, right, how are we going to cover Stephen Kenny? And then an hour or two later, we've got Stephen Kenny and Mick McCarthy sitting in here with you, Nathan, and having the discussion
where it all went wrong for Irish football, and we should needed more crosses. But you do the Mick McCarthy. I'm not doing any impressions at all.
You need more crosses, Stephen. More crosses.
And what would Stephen say in response, Richie?
Richie, the rest of the news right there, just go between the two.
Yeah.
It's a good point that you're making.
Yeah, God damn it. John Giles is coming up. We'll talk to John off air about doing a 50th anniversary watch along live. On the anniversary, watching the interview.
I love these production meetings about something we weren't on air, that we weren't meant to talk about, which is like
it's a great idea. We have 2 years. We have 2 years to get this.
You've just given it away now.
Someone else is going to steal the idea now, aren't they?
Yeah, but we've got John.
Well, they can't now.
No, we've got it. It's intellectual property, and we've got
patent pending.
John refuses to do any of these things with anybody else. Refused point blank to go on the Liam Brady documentary. He said because they said that Brady was Ireland's greatest midfielder, and he said absolutely no chance of my taking part in that.
That's not true.
That is not true.
Not even nearly true.
That is not true. We recorded John earlier on. We'll bring it to you on the radio at 9 o'clock. You can listen to the podcast or watch it on our social channels. We do talk about Leeds' search for a new manager. Just as John was sort of coming around to Jesse Marsh's style of football, he's gone. But he's also going to be talking about Liam Brady ahead of that documentary, which is finally, it seems, going to air on Monday night, and just how brilliant a player Brady was. And he gave him his debut for Ireland when he was just 18 against USSR, and obviously it felt like a lifetime together on our TV screens as well. So that's coming up on the football show after.
Did you ever watch that Liam Brady match? Sorry to interrupt what was coming up.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch that? There used to be, I don't know whether it was TG Carter or whether it was like maybe Satanta or something, but there used to be some place where you'd see random Ireland games in the 70s. And then in Daily Mount with people sitting on the roof and all. And that game was on one time, and it was like 17-year-old Liam Brady with the most amazing like Doc Brown style wavy hair, except brown, and like he was 17. And I think we won 3-0, did we? But Brady ran midfield, and it was his debut. Can you imagine someone coming into an international team and just saying, "This is my team now, lads. Work around me," and he's 17 years old. Well, it was that impressive, honestly, because if you haven't seen Brady, you know him more for reputation and the way Arsenal fans of a certain age talk about him. I think he was one of only 2 players that has a chapter to himself in Nick Hornby's Fever Pitch, you know. But like, so he's obviously idolised for a reason. But when you actually see him there, way before his prime, and you see how he just dominated an international game against a brilliant team. And you're just thinking, like, I don't know if we actually, in modern times, talk enough about how special a player Liam Brady was.
Do you know what, right? I'm about a third of the way. We got sent a preview of the doc. I got about a third of the way through it. One of the best openings and one of the best first 5-6 minutes to a documentary I've seen in a long, long time. It's brilliant. It's genuinely brilliant. So kind of mark your diary for that one when it's on TV in the next few days, because it's really, really, really worth a watch, and kind of, I think, would change a lot of people's perceptions of him. If they've just been familiar with Liam Brady, the pundit that's been on TV for the past couple of decades, this will, not only in a footballing sense, but I think in terms of the person that's on the screen, people will have a different notion of him, I think, after this.
Speaking of previews, I got a preview link for the new Netflix series, Full Swing. 8 episodes on golf. It's golf's version of Drive to Survive. It's going to do to golf what Drive to Survive did to Formula 1 and give people an interest for 3 months before they move on with their lives and stop thinking about it.
Is it?
It's really not. It's really not going to do that. The problem with all of these, and expectations were low to start with, because they say they're trying to attract a new audience, which means actually the vast majority of people who watch it will be golf fans who know a lot of this stuff. It starts on a private jet.
Start.
Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth betting each other $1,000 if they can randomly guess a card that the other person is holding from a deck of cards. Sort of moves on from there. So
And at least they're relatable, Nathan. At least they're 100% relatable people.
Well, you see, the Drive to Survive people aren't, though. Like, I mean, there's an element of kind of like lifestyles of the rich and famous about the, you know, nobody thinks that they're in the real world and they're all super rich and they live in this kind of weird environment. But in some ways it works because it's such an enclosed, small environment. There's only like 100 people involved in Formula One and in that kind of level, you know, whereas...
but there's
with
nobody.
golf, it's like there's a lot of people on tour. They're slightly down a level in terms of like their.
Well, they're the more interesting
fame.
ones. So there's each episode. There's 8 episodes, and look, go watch it. Even if you're a golf fan, there's little bits of behind the scenes pieces of like they're in the clubhouse at Augusta at one stage and go, wow, I never knew that was there. And you see Rory sitting for lunch with John Ram. Like that's how nerdy you get with this. Like, God, I didn't think Rory and John Ram would be sitting together for lunch. And there's a few other players around. And Rory's definitely the alpha in the room. They're all, when Rory talks, everyone stops and they listen to what Rory is going to preach down from above. But they're also ready for it. All of these sports are now ready for it. So they know how to make sure that they give a little, but not too much. And there is that explainer level of, this would be far better if we said, we don't want a vast audience. We want the golf fan to really dig into this and go as nerdy as possible. So you do have, you know, the 3 talking heads who appear throughout to sort of help you along with what's actually happening. So the first one of those is, so golf, right? 72 holes, 4 rounds. And after 2 rounds, there's a cut.
Unless you play the Live Tour.
Which means they get rid of half the guys. So they don't play the last 2 rounds and they don't get paid. And that's failure. It's like, and
it sounds dramatic though.
4 majors. These are bigger than that. This is where legends are made and their names are carved in stone. It's like, oh my God. There are decent bits. The episode in Brooks Koepka is quite interesting.
How many episodes have you watched for something you didn't like that much? You watched 8 episodes on a preview.
Where do you have the time?
Because I was still watching it last night at about midnight because Rory appears in each
episodes.
About 45 mininutes. Rory appears in each episode. Richie's that email about Liam Brady only came in at 2 o'clock and he's already watched half it. Don't be criticising me.
Yeah, but he's doing that instead of working.
Maybe Mick. Because they put in about 5 seconds Rory in every episode and you go, is this it? And then the last episode is on McIlroy and around the Open and the Tour Championship. And some of that is the more interesting bit. Rory Keating's in it for about 5 seconds talking about McIlroy and how great McIlroy is. A little clip from when he was on Sky one day. But part of the problem is the editing as well. How lucky were they to stumble upon Scotty Scheffler, Matt Fitzpatrick, Justin Thomas to be 3 of their main guys who won 3 of the majors, the first 3 majors last season. So they obviously get their final day, they realise they're in contention, and then they go backwards from there almost. So
right, okay, because I wonder, are they always
There's
there?
too many of these is the problem.
So in for example, in the way a lot of reality TV works, from what I've heard over the years, is say, well, it is actually real, but if you guys have a fight or whatever, we're not filming you all the time, but we'll hear about it and then tell you to reenact it. You know, so I wonder, are they doing something similar where it's like, let's now do Matt Fitzpatrick your week leading up to the US Open.
Well, it's the same as when you're watching Love is Blind. You're like, why are they talking about falling in love with them, but then splitting up with each other, wearing the same clothes, sitting on the same couch? Likewise with Ian Poulter, they go to Poulter and it's, are you going to live? And there's a long silence of Poulter sitting on the couch. And then 4 minutes later, he's got
to live.
Live golf, that is.
It took me a second,
like what? And then 4 minutes later, it goes back and he's joined Live and he's still sitting on the same couch. And he's like, yeah, it was a business decision. I'm not a fan of not getting paid for my work. So listen, watch it.
Do you know, I know we've talked about the kind of like the fact that we've just had a deluge of these and there's more to come. And I think we will have to be a bit more pick and choosing in terms of what we watch. But I was thinking about the Six Nations one in the second half of Ireland-Wales. When Wales obviously came out with a rod up their you-know-what and the atmosphere kind of built and Bigger was kicking penalties before the ref was ready. You know what I mean? Just they were getting on. There was a real sense of we have to rise this. So you'd imagine that was an interesting halftime dressing room. And it's like, if they're in there and if they have that real access, you almost couldn't butt. There's no way that they'll be prepared. There's no way that they will be able to.
I don't know if they'll have that. I don't know if they'll be allowed.
We'll see if they're not. If
my expectations for that are rock bottom.
No, see,
even below my expectations for what the golf
mine were too. And then I'm almost thinking it's like, right, you're getting the golf. It's a much slower environment. They're always going to be acting when the cameras are there because there is no one moment. Whereas if you're in there in the dressing room at half time when Gatland is like, I can't believe what a bunch of clowns you are, there will, like, you can't hide that. Like, that's just going to be there. It's just whether they have a good enough deal that they're there for it, first of all, and then whether they're able to use it and whether they don't over-edit it to hell. There could be some interesting insights in it. But we'll see in a year or two.
Yeah. All right. We're tight on time. Go watch the golf documentary. Richie, give us your non-golf fan opinion next week when you're finished with the Liam Brady doc. Do it on work time.
I'll try to, yeah.
Do it on work
time. Try to fill the hours somehow.
So, Ireland have named their team. Another injury blow?
Yeah, Andy Farrell making one enforced change to his Ireland starting 15 for Saturday's Six Nations test with France. Rob Herring will start at hooker with Dan Sheehan missing out due to a hamstring injury. Ronan Kelleher provides cover on the bench. France head coach Fabien Galtier has been able to name an unchanged starting 15, but Francois Quo and Baptiste Couillou are introduced to the replacements at the expense of Thomas Lavaux and Nolan Le Garrec. Farrell was asked and indeed was putting a positive spin on Sheehan's absence today.
It's not nice for Dan. Obviously he's a fantastic player at the top of his form, isn't he, you know? So anyone, I suppose, would miss a player in that type of form of what Dan's in at this moment in time. But at the same time, I sound like a broken record at this moment in time, you know? He's great. He's great in the sense that this is exactly what's going to happen down the track in the World Cup. You know, international rugby's only going to get bigger and better. And so therefore, it's always going to be about the squad. When you get to the World Cup, you've a smaller squad. You know, there's a 12-day turnaround there as far as, and rightly so, as far as concussions concerned, HIAs, etc. So you're always going to be numbers down and you've got to be able to roll with the punches as far as that's concerned. So we're happy with how our squad is developing, pushing each other, competing against each other, and Rob has been always added to our performance. Let's put it that way, you know. So and I also think that he can do a good job in this type of game for us as well.
Yeah, Andy Farrell there. The Newsround brought to you with Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. We're going to have a lot more ahead of the rugby after 8 o'clock. We'll be joined by Grace Davitt and Rory O'Connor to look ahead of that clash of the top two in the world rankings. Coming up at 7:30, we're going to talk to Cyrus Christie. Scored a brilliant goal at the weekend for Hull. They're moving up there, closing in on the playoff places. Scored against Cardiff. Spent last season on loan against Swansea, so was well up for it.
Oh, yeah.
Getting a lot of love
at Swansea, yeah.
Was getting a lot of love from the Swansea fans. And also then Callum Robinson missed the penalty and he basically worked his magic to put Callum Robinson off. Callum Robinson misses it. I was like, well, you know, what about the old international allegiances there? He was going for the short-term hit from the love from the Swansea fans.
Well, Robinson was taken off soon after, so I kind of wondered what happened in that. But Aaron Connolly and Cyrus Christie, that's going to be our one of our championship teams to watch then for...
Sean McLaughlin as well, he was tipping for a potential call-up to the Ireland squad. Really interesting, Cyrus Christie, who's had a very tough couple of years at Fulham where he wasn't getting on with certain people at the club, was not allowed to train with the first team, they didn't seem to want to let him go make a move, was having some issues in his personal life as well, but has gone on that path of going out and loan to Forest, then to Swansea, and now he's settled up at Hull and he's just gone 30 and seems to have entered another stage of his life where he realises, you know what, maybe I can get back to the top. He was mentioning Tim Ream, who he used to play with at Fulham, who's 34, 35, who's playing the Premier League week in, week out. His manager, Lee Marzini, didn't get into the Premier League till he was 32 and ended up getting 2-3 years there. So maybe. Not gone from the Irish setup. He played against Ukraine. He started the game against Ukraine, but hasn't got a huge amount of opportunities under Stephen Kenny. He feels a lot of that's still down to the hangover from starting the night against Denmark and copping a lot of flack for that. I was trying to point out, we're all in on Martin O'Neill on that now.
Yeah. I don't think Stephen Kenny's going to be too worried about that. I think the problem is that, like, even Seamus Coleman was brilliant at the weekend. Like, he really was. Like,
I pointed that out.
Whatever to play well, Seamus Coleman still plays well, even at this age.
How
and
unfortunate
it's like,
are you that?
And you've got Matt Doherty. Like, there was a time, and it might not be the case anymore, when Ireland's two best players were both right backs. And if you're the third choice right back there, you're not going to get many look-ins, unfortunately. But it's not as if, like, you know, he should be very far away from the Ireland setup or team, really. You know, like, he's obviously someone that's playing well at a similar level to the majority of the squad, and has been consistently for years. Yeah.
So, yeah, he'd be thereabouts. So that's coming up at 7:30. Andy Farrell had said elsewhere in his press conference that the atmosphere around Sandymount was hopping because people are ready for this game. I'm just wondering, around South Dublin, is it the fact that Kilmacud Crokes are the All-Ireland champions? It's been officially confirmed. And is there another parade happening?
Well, Sandymount is Clonagale, like, you know, come on, yeah. So, like,
where does Kilmacud stop and where does Kilmacud end? That's a whole other controversy that I don't want to get into right now.
Shane Walsh.
Come on. I mean, in the actual parishes of South Dublin,
it's a wide-ranging catchment area. Yeah, there isn't many clubs around it, you know, but
they have been formally awarded the title, Richie.
They have at last, yeah. Glenn withdrew from the appeals process on Friday, having objected to Crokes having 16 active players on the pitch for the final play of the match. I'll be delighted to see the back of that sentence. After a meeting with the CCCC, Crokes agreed to withdraw their own counter appeal, bringing the whole saga to a close. And Crokes, in their own statements today, saying they welcomed the decision.
So in golf, the Phoenix Open is on this week. This is a huge tournament. It's the one with the 16th. It's the stadium around the 16th, the par 3.
The Waste Management Open, it used to be, is it?
It is still the Waste Management Open.
Right, okay,
Wasted Americans is basically what it's turned into, where you've about 80,000 drunk Americans. Last year it started that after they take their shot, if you don't make the green, they just start throwing their drink cans on you. And now part of it is that when you leave the green, they run on and they have to basically push off about 200 cans of beer. So everyone just throws their beer cans onto the green as you're finishing up.
This is Phoenix this weekend.
Phoenix this
the
weekend.
Super Bowl is in Glendale, so there's obviously a pretty busy.
It certainly is
busy weekend. I wonder will it affect the crowds?
It doesn't seem so. So generally on Super Bowl Sunday, they start early at the Waste Management, and the crowds sort of dwindle. It's a bizarre tournament because by the time it gets to Sunday evening, a lot of people have lost interest because it's always Super Bowl Sunday. Yeah. And particularly this year when it's in
the same place, basically. A suburb down the road.
But they have these new elevated events now, which means all the best players play at the same tournaments all of the time, and this is one of them. So whereas Phoenix, you would get an okay field, everybody is playing this week. So Rory is there, Spieth is there, Thomas is there. So it should be good.
Fun. Golf's
nice
demolition derby.
Nice little warm-up. But Tom McKibben, who needs Rory McIlroy, eh?
Absolutely, yeah. County Down golfer Tom McKibben holding a one-shot lead after the opening round of the Singapore Open. The DP World Tour rookie shot an 8 under par round of 64 today. Gary Hurley is 3 under par there. John Murphy is 2 over. But McKibben was delighted with his round.
Yeah, very good day. Going out there after the practice rounds, the course is pretty tricky if you find sort of the wrong spots in the greens and stuff. So sort of navigated the course well, and as you said, he had birdies and no bogeys was pretty nice way to start.
Really good story, Tom McKibben, because he's been talked about for years, and it always felt, because he's from Hollywood, he's from the same place as Rory McIlroy, there was almost we'll just connect these two together. But ever since he was 12, 13, getting invites to Pro-Ams and all of that, and I never really actually knew whether he would turn out to be a decent golfer or whether everyone just liked the storyline of he's the next Rory McIlroy because he's from the same place. But turns out he's actually a pretty goddamn good golfer.
Yeah, this is one of those, it's a classic Thursday when you kind of take notice of someone that you haven't paid too much attention to in the past, and then watch out for him then for the rest of the weekend and hopefully beyond.
So Lowry and McIlroy out in the course?
Yeah, there was a 90-minute delay because of frost there actually today, so it wasn't until after 4:30 that McIlroy and Lowry got their first rounds underway. They're playing at opposite ends of the course. They both have 8 holes to play. McIlroy is 1 over par at the moment. Shane Lowry is 2 over. There's a whole clatter of golfers, including Troy Merritt, Adam Long, Charlie Hoffman and Xander Schauffele, all on 2 under par. Seamus Power won't get his first round underway until 10 to 10 Irish time due to all those delays.
Golf Weekly is up and waiting for you, the usual 90-minute spectacular. OTBSports.com/Golf Weekly if you want to sign up, like Mick has.
$3.99.
$3.99 a month, a week, a month.
I don't know, a month I think.
Plus VAT. We're legally obliged to say that. Have we time for one more story, Richie?
We'll go to the Worcester one, actually, because there's anger at the decision to effectively kill off the Worcester Warriors over in England. The English club entered administration in September, with the Atlas Group being placed in charge at the start of this month. They had hoped to see Worcester resume in the Championship next season. However, Atlas are unwilling to take on the club's debts, which range between £5 million and £8 million. So former players and employees will now go unpaid. And instead, Atlas have decided to invest in English fourth-tier club Stourbridge and rename them Six Ways Rugby. So the Worcester Warriors name and indeed club is dead.
All right.
Six Ways Rugby is a terrible name for a club.
Absolutely. It sounds like a service station. Sounds like a service station off a motorway
really
in the UK,
does.
which maybe it is. Richie, thank you. Enjoy the rest of the Liam Brady documentary.
I'll try and get around to it between
now and 10 o'clock.
Yeah,
all right,
thanks.
you do that.
Yeah.
And then full swing as well. We want your Richie McCormack review. Mick, you be around for the evening?
I'll pop in.
Whether we
sometime,
like it or
sure.
not. All right, great stuff. Time for the cash machine.
Your chance to win big. News Talk's cash machine.
It's a special cash machine this week with one simple amount for you to remember. This Friday, someone is guaranteed to win €75,000 exactly. Text play to 57557. That's 57557.